Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Against All Odds. And I'm joined today by another inspirational person because, as you all know, that I only kind of invite people that inspire me. So it's quite a selfish podcast. And today we are joined by the fantastic Alex Myers, who is owner of The Better Man. So hello, Alex, and welcome.
Thank you.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm ready. Yeah.
Good. So we're going to talk all things about what you do and men's mental health. So as I said, like, you own The Better Man. Just explain to people who don't know what that is, what is involved in that?
Sure. So mainly it's coaching and community for men who want to lead better lives. So one thing I wanted to do as a coach was to make sure that everything wasn't like business orientated and focused on the self, because, you know, we all have family, we have mums, we have dads, brothers, sisters, kids, whatever. And, you know, I think we can make a real difference to those people around us when we get ourselves right. So that we made that a core focus, as well as, like I say, the community of doing it with other guys. It's so much more powerful when you're doing it on this journey with other people who want the same outcome. So that's been a real game changer. So yeah, that's what I do in a nutshell. Yeah.
Well, that's great. So is it like goal setting, like in like different areas rather than just focusing on one thing?
Yeah, it's more character based, if I'm honest. So
Right.
before we look at goals, we take a look at, like, who do we want to be? You know, how do we want to show up? I've always found that more important than just deciding, you know, I want to earn this amount of cash, or I want to lose this amount of weight, or whatever it is, you know. And the goals are good. Like, I'm not looking on. I think it's important to have goals. We need aim. We need direction. But I know when I was at my worst, I was kind of behaving in a way that I didn't want to behave, and that's what hurt me. It wasn't that outcome of my goals; it was like who I was as a person. So that became, you know, a core part of the Better Man, and something we always work on inside. You know, the character of a man, and there are ways to develop that. You know, through doing difficult things, challenges, pushing yourself, being disciplined. So that's where we put our emphasis, and you'll find that your life gets better and your outcomes become better as you develop your character skills.
That's nice. It's like that's like the future you kind of thing, isn't it? Like who you need to become. I like that.
Yeah, and regardless, you know, because some goals work out, some don't.
Mm.
And what we don't want to do is define somebody's worth on an outcome. You know, if you miss a goal, it doesn't necessarily make you a failure, but, you know, integrity, respect, things like that, they stay with you regardless of the outcome. And you can deal with setbacks if you've got that resilience in your locker. You're more likely to go after things anyway, because you know you're resilient enough to withstand the failures or deemed failures. Whereas a lot of people might not go after the things they want in life because they just don't know whether they could cope with it not working out.
Yeah, that's a good point. I like the way you see that. So everybody I've had on who kind of impacts other people in the way like you do normally has a big why that gets them out of bed to do what they do in the morning. So what was the kind of life before you set this up? What is your big why?
Yeah, well, I think you started off the podcast, didn't you, today by saying it was a selfish reason. You know, you wanted to have interesting conversations for you, and I guess mine's similar. You know, I wanted to get my own shit sorted, and I seek some help in that. I needed some help in that, so I was lucky enough to be mentored and coached, you know, and given direction. And then I thought, you know, well, what can I, now that I've got more skills than I had, maybe I can direct and help and coach other people. And the main thing that I love doing is creating community for people. So this isn't me saying I've got my shit together and, you know, I've got the answers for you. I really fucking haven't, I promise you. It's more like, you know, here's an area where we can all work together to become better people. So my why was, reaching a point where I just really disliked my life and who I was. And it was the healing of that, or the process that I took to try and correct some of my wrongdoings. That was my starting point, you know, when I had to really do the work hard on my own game. That was a turning point for me.
Yeah, that's nice. Do you believe that people kind of need to hit a rock bottom though before they kind of change? Go,
um,
I've enough of this shit and I need to change. Do you, it's a hard one. I get different answers of different people, so I'm interested. What do you think?
I would have always said yes, but there's a guy who opened my eyes to maybe a different way of thinking. So I'm not sure. My way was, I had to reach a real shitty place, and a lot of the guy, I mean, nobody comes to me and says my life's great and therefore I'd like to join the Better Man. Usually there's something that an individual wants to change, and we know that we want to change it because it's painful not to have what we want or to be behaving a certain way. So pain is definitely the motivator. Whether you have to hit rock bottom though, I'm not sure. So whether you can forecast and foresee life and, you know, a real deep understanding of you're not going to be here forever, things like that can spur you on to change. So rock bottom, possibly not, but usually in my experience, pain is the thing that gets people started, more than desire.
Yeah, it's interesting because we spoke earlier about Danny Dyer program coming out and kind of blowing up about men's mental health. It's always been there, but he's put a different spin on it, like kind of blaming society. What are your thoughts around this toxic masculinity and everybody seeing it as a problem?
Yeah, so I watched the Danny Dyer documentary. You know, a couple of guys messaged me because I don't really watch TV, so I wouldn't have known it was on.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
the lads just kind of dropped me a note and said, this looks like, you know, it looks pretty good and we think you'll like it. So I watched it. So the first thing I always have issues with is I don't really understand what toxic masculinity is. For me, masculinity is a really healthy thing. So you can't have too much of it. And in the simple terms, you can be a bit of a dickhead or you can't. It's that split for me. So this toxic masculinity, again, I wouldn't know what it is because I can't clearly define it. So I'm not quite sure. In terms of like the documentary itself, yeah, I don't know what the feedback's been from people. I don't know how well received it is. You said it had its critics and it had people that were saying it was good. I read one article about it and it wasn't very kind of flattering towards Danny Dyer and what he put out. In terms of what did I learn from watching it, to be honest, not too much. There was nothing I didn't really know in there. I think, you know, there's a lot of trouble for guys at the minute and for people in general. This isn't just a guy victim thing. I think if we're talking mental health as a whole, I think it's a really complex subject, especially now. I think it's probably the most hypocritical industry out there. And it is an industry, by the way. You can make a lot of money in the mental health world now. I think it's a very hypocritical industry. We need to be careful who we listen to. I think we like to think we understand it more than we do. And reality for me is we don't really understand the brain. We don't really understand the system. What we do know is what people want to always overlook, that exercise, good eating, getting outside is some of the only things we know is good for you, right? Genuinely good for you. Yeah, it's the thing we always overlook. You know, the intellects don't want to talk about that as much because it's that simple, and we like to complicate, wrap things up, and pretend that it's a lot deeper than that. But for me, until we get those basics right and encourage people and members of society to become more active, then it's always going to be there. It's always going to be a difficult thing. And by the way, I know you asked me about the toxic masculinity thing. Yeah, I think I think a lot of it's nonsense. I think a lot of it is nonsense. I think guys would benefit from wanting and knowing that it's okay to want to be masculine. I think there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I think it's healthy to be a masculine man for sure.
Yeah, I'm glad you've said that. I mean, I say it all the time, and then women, interestingly, they'll go, "Are you women haters, son?" And I'm like, no. I'm just saying it's okay for a man to be masculine. But the world is very confused at the minute on kind of roles. Yeah, I don't
think it's confused. If you listen to what women bitch about in their partners, it's lack of masculinity. My partner doesn't take responsibility. He doesn't step up and get things done. He doesn't get, you know, he's not in good shape. All these things that we often hear of complaints are the exact opposite of masculinity. Women often want their man to take responsibility and step up and get things done.
Absolutely, yeah.
So for me, that's all masculinity is. You know, it's taking responsibility. It's being the guy that like has a pair of balls and gets things done and doesn't just sit on the couch and play computer games and let everyone else do their work for them. So I don't understand where this confusion has come from. I just think we like or need something to argue about. A lot of us are bored. We've got maybe a lack of purpose in our life, so we look at to argue and debate, and often we debate and argue things we don't even understand, such as wars and such. So I think it's utter nonsense. I think men would like to be more, and by the way, most men, sorry, not all men, would like to be more masculine or have a healthy version, or feel like it's okay to be masculine and be male, and women would probably like more of that around them as well, no matter what.
Yeah, I completely agree. I completely agree. So what do you think, because it's always been quite highlighted that men struggle to talk more, and I think Chris Williamson actually did a podcast a while ago where he said they'd run like an experiment in Australia, and they'd worked out that women talk face to face and men can't do that. They kind of talk on a diagonal or shoulder to shoulder. And now that's an evolution thing. And as a brain coach, my work heavily is in evolution, because obviously our brains haven't changed. It's the world around us. But why do you think men struggle to talk in general? Because is that part of the masculine thing, that they don't do emotions, or they find it hard?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I listened to that podcast you're referring to as well. Like I said, if you walk past me and another dude like facing each other talking, it could be easily confused with conflict, like they're squaring up to each other, you know, the dominance hierarchy. So I think there always is that with guys, you know, there is always a little bit of like eyeing up who that guy is, and whether you perhaps feel like, you know, you're the dominant one or the submissive one, or whatever it is. So there is that with guys. And by the way, I think that's okay. You know, I'm totally okay with accepting that men aren't going to talk as much as women. And again, I'm not going to try and change that or wish it was any different. It just is. I've worked with guys for 18, 20 years. They don't talk that much. However, when you offer them a safe community and you offer them challenge and you go through difficult things together and you struggle and you fight for each other and you look out for each other and you got each other's back, and then you start to witness that guys actually do share some information. All right. They're probably not going to meet for a coffee and just start talking shit. They need to trust each other and bond. And we bond through difficult challenges. Like if you watch football, for example, you've got guys hugging each other when they score, slap each other on the ass, whatever. They'll do anything. They're a team. They're a unit. They suffer together. They win together. They lose together. So men need to put themselves in that environment with other men. And then you have the opportunity to talk, because like they're your guys then. A lot of guys don't have friends. You know, they don't have anyone to talk to. And they're not going to pick up the phone and just call. We're not going to do it. So again, encouraging men just to open up and talk is another one of those things in the mental health industry. I think they've just got absolutely wrong, absolutely backwards. You can encourage men to do it all day. They're not going to. So we have to find other ways. And again, if you know, with your background, I think this is a really good way of looking at it. So we have to look at what we've got within us. You know, at the end, what's innate. You know, nature, because we can try and fight that too hard sometimes and try and push men towards acting in ways that they're never going to. And again, that's when we feel like there's something wrong with us. Well, why don't I talk? Why don't I open up? Maybe it's just not a natural thing, and that's okay, and that's cool. But do you know what I mean? So coming, just accepting that is a little bit liberating.
Yeah, I think that's it. I think I did a podcast with Adam Proud a few weeks ago. I don't know whether you're aware of him, but he's heavily into evolution. And he was saying that is the problem. You know, we're trying to get all these people to talk. The men aren't wired like that. They're different to women, where women could just go to like a friend or a group of friends and just verbal diarrhea at somebody. Like men don't do that, but we expect you to do that, but you can't do that. So it's like...
No, or we can, but you know, often we can behave in ways that are so false that we can drive ourselves into depression. You know, we're trying to be something we're not all the time, and trust me, I've been here. It's painful. It's difficult. You know, often we want to please people around us. We want to fit in. We want to be accepted, and to do that, we have to act in a certain way that isn't natural to us. So we end up becoming really kind of like split and separated from who we truly are. So this is why I think the message for it's good for guys to be guys is fine. You know, if you, I think that's okay. And we do act very differently. Some guys act completely different to other guys. But again, if we're all in on authenticity, then you might have to accept us for how we come.
Absolutely. It's like even things like we've kind of lost, like when men went down the pub together on a Sunday, you know, not that I'm a big advocate for going drinking, but they've lost that as well. Not many people do that as such now. So it's like men are isolated now more than ever, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's various reasons for that. I think we can live a life online now, you know, that can replicate a similar community feel, although it's not the same in my opinion, you know, but we can hang out with our mates online. We can do things online that would replicate, you know, being in groups. And then of course there's, you know, relationships are complex too. A lot of the guys that I know want to be nice guys, which is great, and they want to keep their partner happy, and the way that they do that is oh, I won't go out and see my friends. And this is the same vice versa, by the way, for women,
Mm-hmm.
trying to please their partner. So a lot of guys do that, and their best friend becomes their girlfriend then, and then they don't have any separate life. And it's difficult for a guy to, because you might not get the reaction you want if you tell your girlfriend that, look, Friday night is boys' night. I'm sorry, I'm not going to hang out with you. I'm hanging out with the lads. And your girlfriend might not like that, but I think it's important that you try and keep that part of your life in there. Because I've had, a lot of friends that have made their girlfriend the center of their world, and then they broke up and they've got nothing left. And I wouldn't
Yeah.
encourage anyone to do that. I think in all relationships, you need friendship, you need other parts that are outside of that. And that's one thing I see for a lot for guys. Their girlfriend becomes their best friend. And I don't think it's very healthy.
No, I think you're completely right on that as well. And then you both come kind of dependent on each other. It's not a healthy environment to be in at the best times anyway. But you're so right with that. Now, peer groups, I ask a lot of people about peer groups because, like, from my point of view, we have mirror neurons that copy other people because we're designed to do that because we lived in a tribe. But everybody I speak to at the moment, doesn't matter if it's male or female, will say there's no one around them that they could class as a peer that they kind of inspired by or kind of like up their game by. Now, I scream about this, but why is it so hard for people to get into a peer group? And what would your best advice be to even start trying to get into a peer group?
So when you say you scream, did you just say you scream about it?
Yeah.
What do you mean? You encourage it?
I encourage it. I really do encourage. So I always go, don't cut people off, that aren't doing what you're doing, but you need to kind of engage with somebody that is expanding like you are, possibly not on the same journey, but are growing as a person.
Yeah. And again, we've got to be careful with our language here of saying, you need to do this. Because again, this is something I was guilty of as a coach, really telling people what they need to do. I think the only time you would need or want, to change your peer group is if you want to change yourself as an individual. Most people are quite happy and content with where they're at, even if they're miserable. That's much easier. I mean, if I go and hang out with business owners that are making 5 times as much as me, and I do that every day, they're going to make me feel so uncomfortable and self-conscious that it's a very difficult place for me to be. Just joined the writers group, actually, creative writers. And I'm so out of my depth. It's the most uncomfortable hour of my week because you've got all these people that just can create and really expressive, and that's not me. But however, that's part of the peer group change. You feel self-conscious. So if you're overweight and you're hanging out with a bunch of dudes who work out, but we've removed all this. We've told now people that feeling self-conscious is a terrible thing. And you shouldn't be in that, and you should never feel any shame in your behavior. Well, what about you should feel a little bit of shame? Because if you didn't feel any shame, you'd do whatever the fuck you wanted. You'd do anything. We need to feel a bit of shame. So for me, there's a healthy version of that where you can be shamed into the fact that you're the guy out the group that doesn't work out. So that might sound horrible to some people, like cruel, in fact. But for me, it's a healthy pressure and a healthy way of getting a guy and saying, look, dude, you can do so much more. It's going to be uncomfortable for the first few months, but eventually you will feel great. You're going to be working out, and then there'll be somebody new who comes into the group and looks up at you and wants to copy and replicate the behavior you're doing. So when we talk about peer pressure, it's really difficult being in a healthy group because it means you've got to change your behavior. You can no longer stay the same. You can't be the person you were before you joined our group. It's that kind of pressure. And a lot of men don't want that. But again, if we push masculinity a bit and say, no, dude, you have to step up now. The world demands it of you. Your family demand it. But we've become real lazy and slack with this. We don't really expect too much from people now. And it's okay. You can get away with anything now. You can slob away. You can watch Netflix all day and it's accepted. When you join a group like the Better Man, what we're saying is that isn't acceptable in here. You come in here to grow. And if you want to grow, you have to challenge yourself. It's the only way. So that for me, that's a version of healthy pressure. It's not for everyone, but it's for people who want to grow and change their life.
Yeah. So you said about people like being comfortable. I think that's what men and women, I will say that's it makes our society uncomfortable. So if you think about it, like from a brain health point of view, everything is instant gratification at the minute. It's like we can order something straight off Amazon. We don't have to use a map now. We've got a sat nav. Like everything is so simple. Like, we don't even have to think of a recipe. We can go and get a microwave meal and put it in. So people are comfortable with being comfortable, but that doesn't mean healthy or happy. So how do you get people to see actually that's not the best way?
Well, it might be the best way for them. Who knows? And by the way, I find this difficult because I think everybody should get after it and get it. But
Yeah,
society isn't set up for that. In fact, if you have a look at media now and who's penalised, it's often the brave people who go after what they want that are pulled back. So, if you get too big for your boots now, you take a Jordan Peterson or even, God, bear his name, like Andrew Tate, who people think would be complete poison. But let's just say you are in that frame of mind of you want to say what you truly believe. It's going to come with a massive consequence now. So it's easier in life to be very average, to fit in, just go with the flow, because you're not going to get attacked that much. People are going to be okay with you. You're not going to make much noise. Life's going to be a bit calmer. So to be that person now that wants to pursue dreams and wants to say what they truly feel, which I really believe is one of the main reasons we have a lot of depression now, because I think people are just scared to voice their opinion. And, I started this podcast by saying about the hypocrisy in mental health. Look at the media. People are attacked and bullied all the time, and it's disgusting, and we wonder why people are scared to speak up. And, that's what the whole mental health industry was pushed on, like allow people to speak. But when you do nowadays, you can get attacked instantly for saying the wrong thing at the wrong time or using the wrong word. So it's all very hypocritical to me. So for me, yeah, just having that, I guess, courage to be the guy that says what he believes, even if and that's not a comfortable life. That is not a comfortable life. So I guess if you want to be your authentic self, if you want to be the guy who kind of really wants to live with courage, you have to get out of a comfortable feeling. Is that nothing grows there? It's not a good place. Or if you're happy with everything you've got and who you're being, stay where you are. It's fine. Whatever you want, really. Yeah, it's definitely an individual need, but I think everyone has different drivers within inside them. Some people will happily live a comfortable life, even if they know it's not their best one.
Yeah, I get that. So with the mental health services and how we deal with it in this country, what do you think needs to change?
Fucking hell, Amy.
On a whole, all of it, just scrap it and start again. But there's got to be something different that we can do, because obviously I'm seeing like Alzheimer's rates like just shoot up, like things with like heart disease, everything like that. A lot of it's caused by stress. And cortisol levels, especially where Alzheimer's is concerned. Yet they don't seem to be doing a great deal in the mental health to kind of bring these stats down any.
Yeah, well, I could argue that and say, are we spending more money now on mental health services than we were 20 years ago? I don't know the numbers, but I would assume so, with all the mental health charities around, helplines. I would assume there's more therapists around now than I can ever remember. Coaches, life coaches, psychotherapists. So I don't know, that from what I see, there seems to be more help for people. So I guess the next question will be, is that help working? And if you have a look at the data, people are killing themselves in higher numbers than ever, especially in teenage girls now. They seem to be catching up with the boys, which is really worrying, because we don't want that to happen. So something's not quite right. It feels like the help's available, but it's not working. So that tells me that the help we're providing isn't really doing any good. But I can see this is articulating it, the problem. I see if you have a bunch of people walking around the planet like not doing the basic things that we spoke about, which are often overlooked, like the food that we're given, that we buy off the supermarkets, lack of exercise. And then, you've got these dudes suppressing their natural behaviors, wanting to be men. It just seems really normal to me that people are going to walk around really miserable and depressed and kind of not want to be here and think, fucking hell, is this all it is? I've got to spend my whole life pretending to be this. And really, my natural desire is this. And, we have these feelings like it's wrong. We should be trying to change ourselves all the time. And I can just see quite clearly how it's just it's a recipe for disaster. What do we do to change it? Well, I don't know. It's, without being cynical, it seems like we're so far past the point. It's just so crazy and complex right now. I'm like, well, yeah, exactly. Where the fuck do we start?
Yeah.
Terrifying. And that's why Danny Dyer, when he releases his program like that, I think it's great. I think we need to have a look at this. But there's so much divide between feminists and your toxic masculinity talk, and I don't know why both sides are pushing so far apart. For me, Like men and women work beautifully together. If you know,
Mm.
listen, I think it's amazing. But you have to have masculine and feminine energies that balance each other out. So this whole competition between, like I say, you hear your hardcore feminists kind of putting men down, which I think is awful, and then you've got your macho
Yeah.
guys kind of end up, spilling this message of hating women. I just don't understand it all. But yeah, what we do, I don't know. I wouldn't like to rely on the government right now, that's for sure. So the only thing I can think of is what can I do that's within my own control to make my life better. That's it.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I can look at. And inside the Better Man, that's what we focus on. What can you do
Mm.
as an individual to make your own life better, to make your family's life better? What can you do? And again, I've heard this argument spilled to me the other way. We should be focusing on bigger numbers like society, what we can do as society. But who is society? What is society? Who owns society? Who makes the rules? It's very complex. And what can we do to impact society? Very little. In fact, nothing, perhaps. So the only thing we can do is the individual work, which is where I try and take my guys.
Yeah, that's amazing. Interesting enough, in the Danny Dyer program, and they said about the construction industry having like
Yeah.
the most deaths. That surprised me. I don't know why. I don't know why it surprised me. I was like, oh my god, that's horrific. Why, in your opinion, why is it so high in an industry like that?
Yeah, well, it didn't surprise me because I used to work. I used to have like a gym that was next to a scaffolding company, so I knew a lot
Right.
of the scaffolders, and they're tough lads,
Mm.
And often, if the kind of lads that are going to apply for those jobs might not have had the luxury of an education, for example.
Right.
So there might be some of the only work they can get, and it's backbreaking work. You're out in the cold all day. It's tiring. It's labor. It's hard. It's difficult. And sometimes, if you believe that your life is always going to be like that, hard, suffering for not great amounts of money, so you can put food on the table, or whatever it is you need to do. If that feels like the future and that's all your life is going to be, you can see why that might not be the most, kind of optimistic and great kind of vision for the future. And for me, that's quite damaging. If you think your life is going to be the same as it is today, as it will be in 30 years, that's quite hard. But then what other options do you have if you're an uneducated guy in today's day and age? Where do you go and get your money from to survive in a world that is quite costly to survive in now? So I think a combination of all those things that makes it kind of difficult for guys like that to perhaps better their future. And again, maybe then, like, misery loves company. So maybe you get a bunch of guys working together who don't really like what they do and don't really help each other out for it. And maybe it becomes this deep, dark, bleak place. Yeah. So I don't know. It's, again, what do you do to change it? I'm not sure. I don't have the answers on this one. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a difficult one because it's like society as a whole, isn't it? And it's like, I mean, you could start putting things out on social media, but even that, I don't think could touch the surface.
No, what I do know about that industry is, like, obviously, if you've worked your balls off for 6 days a week, usually the way to unwind in a job like that is to go and have a lot of alcohol and possibly some other substances that kind of narrow your focus down and take you away from the misery that is your job if you don't like it. So again, you get
Yeah,
cycles, you just live for the weekend kind of thing, big booze, feel great, but the next day you feel like shite. And that cycle can, I've seen that happen to a few of the lads that I know that are in labouring. So it's a tough gig, but the main reason they do it is so that they can, again, put food on the table for their family. This is why I think guys like that, especially, like, they should be respected. I don't think
Mhm.
when you hear guys being attacked so much these days, I think it's really sad, because there's some decent lads out there who just got themselves into a bit of a mess, and
Yeah,
might not be showing up as their best version, but they need some help and they deserve some help and support. Why shouldn't they? It's very easy to cast the judgmental eye on people these days, to a 25-year-old who's not behaving well, but you don't know where he's come from. You don't know what start he's had to life. And they're the kind of people who need a healthier peer group and some leaders. But again, we're
yeah,
lacking those now. We're lacking, like, middle-aged men that are going to be in a decent enough position to help the younger boys, because a lot of the middle-aged men aren't doing the work because they weren't shown how to do the work by their old man. So
yeah,
the only way we can get generational change is to pass down better habits to and this doesn't mean making our kids' lives easier. It means installing character and discipline in our kids, not making their life easier. People get this confused. And that, for me, is the only way you'll make societal and generational change. It's like, who do we bring into this world? So we can sit here and slag youngsters off all day now, which is easy to do, but who the fuck brought them up? It was us.
Yeah, exactly. I always say that. You hear so many people, talk down about the next generation. It's like, but we've taught them. That's it's come from us. It's come from us.
Of us. Yeah, we make life sometimes a little bit too easy for youngsters now. We don't expect much from them, and I don't think that's helpful. We think it makes them happier, but it doesn't in the long run.
It's interesting you said that, because I spoke to Chris Sheehan on a podcast, and obviously Danny Dyer spoke about it in the documentary as well. Is there's no kind of leaders or role models for men nowadays, and I quite actually like Andrew Tate. Everybody can shoot me down, but no, I don't agree with everything that he says or everything that he does, but I think sometimes he does come out with some sense. But I believe that he's only that big because it's like supply and demand. Younger men haven't got anybody to turn to, so he's like the only one.
Mm-hmm.
It's like role models. It's kind of they are lacking.
Yeah. What do you like about Andrew Tate?
Like I said, I don't agree with everything. I think
that's all right.
I think he comes across the wrong way. He comes across quite aggressive.
What do you like about him?
He just says what he thinks.
Yeah, that's what I love about him too. Regardless of what he's saying, he's got balls. Their balls are fucking huge. And most guys would look at that and go, I wish I had the courage to stand up for what I believe in.
Yeah.
That's what's attractive about Andrew Tate. Really attractive. Yeah. So when a guy who sits back, really submissive and he's scared to say anything, he looks at Andrew Tate, he's like, I guarantee I would love to be in a position where I could say what I feel. Even if it's the exact opposite of what Andrew Tate believes, it doesn't matter. It's having the balls and the steel to come out with what you believe in. And I think that if we don't allow people permission to do that, it's very damaging and dangerous to hold all that shit in and pretend something else when we believe this, but we have to live with this.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I can't remember. I made a post a couple of weeks ago, and it was basically just the same thing Andrew Tate said, but I just reworded it. He got loads of crap for it, and my post did really well. And I was just like, what is going on with society? Like, it's absolutely insane.
That is insane. And look, he's got all this shit on him now, and he might go to jail. But what else is interesting? I think people would be happy to see him go to jail just for what he says. Take away what he may or may not have done. That's to be resolved. But we're that against people speaking out now that we would rather put Andrew Tate in jail just because of his views on women. Same with Donald Trump. I'm sure people love him or hate him. If you hate him, you would want him just put away in prison, even if they found out they'd done nothing worthy of going to jail. So this is what I mean about shutting people down. So if you want to be a brave man now, step forward. And I'm not talking about on the scale of like Tate and Trump, because they're at the top of the tree in terms of eyes on them. But I just mean in your family, in your community. Yeah. You don't have the courage to say what you believe. You're always going to live this life of like confusion and conflict, and you're never really going to respect yourself because you never really say what you believe in, and you don't know what the fuck you stand for then. And that's not a good place for a guy to live.
That's so interesting, and I quite like that you don't mind Andrew Tate either.
No, but again, wouldn't we be foolish, Amy? Don't you think to say that? Oh, we should shut him down, and we shouldn't, because again, something else that was on that documentary of Danny Dyer, the female teacher was saying, we don't mention him in here, and I'm like, well, why don't you mention him and open up space for the lads to have a conversation? Because if we don't have those conversations, we can't educate the young lads on why this might not be a healthy view, or maybe we can form healthier views. But just to ban it and say we can't speak about it, and you're going to get in trouble if you do, and he gets banned from this, and I'm like, no, it's important. He's an important character, Andrew Tate, because he's got so many eyes on him. So if you're a parent worried about, oh my God, my son's watching Andrew Tate, open up discussion for him. And before we get really concerned with Andrew Tate's influence on our children, have a look at your own influence as a parent.
Yeah, yeah.
If you're overweight, if you're smoking, if you're not excited, if you've got your head stuck in your phone and you're not teaching your kids discipline, I believe the last thing you should be worried about is Andrew Tate. You should be worried about your own influence on your own children, because you've got far more influence on your kids than Andrew Tate has. And it's just another way that we can point the finger out instead of pointing it back at us. If we start doing this, well, he's a piece of shit, the government of this. I'm like, let's spin the fingers around. What can we do? What
Yeah,
changes can we
absolutely.
make to improve ourselves, to improve the lives of our kids? What can we
Yeah,
do? Whilst
let's
I'm
be
pointing at
role
Tate, I'm not looking
models.
at myself.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
let us be the role models and not somebody online. But it was interesting. So I can remember whatever year it was that it kicked off with Andrew Tate being arrested and things like that. I think it was before he got arrested when it started coming out about like his views about women. And my son was actually following him and started talking about him. So I started to panic. So I'm thinking, oh my God, like, he's going to turn into a woman hater. So I went out of my way and actually watched a couple of podcasts with Andrew Tate on. And I was thinking, he's talking quite sensible, really, to be fair. So yeah, I was like, yeah, you can carry on watching him, but it's that fear. Obviously, I'd literally been took in by social media and what everybody was saying to it about him, and then I just ran with what everybody else thought until I looked at it myself.
Yeah, and again, a lot of guys have got to be careful, because before they're too judgmental on Andrew Tate. If you followed me around for my entire life, Amy, and recorded everything I said, there are things you could find that, one, I wouldn't be proud of, and two, you do speak differently when you're with a bunch of guys that you might not speak in the presence of women. It's just loud language, and you might not be super proud of it if you heard it back, but there are certain things you might say with the boys that are just a bit of banter and things, like I say, that you just say because it's the lads, and you don't mean any real harm by it, but it's just boy talk, right?
Yeah,
And then, like I say, it doesn't make you a bad person. It's just, boom, you learn how to conduct yourself better when you're 40 than when you are 30-year age. So
yeah.
we've all done things wrong. We've all said things wrong. The only difference is Andrew Tate says it openly and in public, and everything's documented. And that's why people think he's, a piece of shit. And it's like, well, hold on, we need to look at our own behavior, because we've all got shit to fix first before we demonize Tate. It's like, well, let's have a look at how we can improve ourselves. That's my view on it.
Yeah. So interesting enough, I interviewed Chris Tibbetts. The podcast just been released today, actually, when was on about how men talk about themselves. So he was talking about emotional eating and how he would go and basically make the joke about himself first before somebody else would make the joke. And he said men tend to do that more than women. Do you think men struggle with confidence more than women do?
Struggle with confidence.
Mm.
Again,
how men are viewed at the moment.
Yeah, potentially. For me, confidence is something that you earn. So you earn it through small victories. So the biggest contributor to a lack of confidence in men, for me, is doing the opposite of what you say. So this is really easy to do, and you might not even know you're doing it. But every day there are little promises you make to yourself that you might not stick with. Just little things: going to the gym, eating healthy, going to speak to the wife a bit better. I'll do this piece of work. I'll do this reading. I'm going to get up at 6. I'm not going to hit snooze. And they might not seem like a big deal, but every time we go against our word, we start to erode into our confidence. So we really start to kind of create this big debt of self-doubt then. And because I'm working closely with men, I see that more in guys than I do with women. I'm not saying that men suffer more with that kind of lack of confidence, because I don't know. But just working with a lot of guys, confidence is a huge issue. However, we kind of get what we deserve with confidence. We've got to be careful here about what we do on a day-to-day basis. That will either build or destroy confidence. It's not in the big stuff. People think, excuse me, people think it's the big stuff. It's the little stuff. So whenever someone joins the group, the first thing we focus on are those little small habits that you might not even think are important. So I started with the snooze button. If the snooze button goes off, if you say you're going to get up at 6, do not hit snooze, because it's kind of been defeated in the first 10 minutes of the day, and it's a really bad start. And then confidence-wise, I'm like, well, why would I believe anything that I say? If I say I'm going to go to the gym, I might go, I might not. That's not a place of confidence. Confidence means when I look you in the eye and go, I'm like tonight, I am going to the gym after this podcast.
Yeah.
Now that I've told you that, Amy, I'm going to the gym after this podcast. It's happening.
Yeah.
I believe in myself. You hopefully have some belief in me too, because I back my word up. And that's how we can create our own confidence, and also that you will have a bit more belief in me. Because every time you know me, I've said I'm going to do something. Guess what? I do it. So I think if you are suffering with confidence, and guys do, there's only one way to get yourself out of that place, and that is to start doing the things that you said you would do, no matter how big, no matter how small. That would be my number one mission for any man who's struggling with confidence.
That's amazing. And setting like daily routines as well. Do you work with men to do that?
Yes, absolutely. The
Mm.
smaller the better. You've got to have real humility. A lot of guys kind of like think they're better than what they are in terms of self-discipline. You know, we all like to think that we can kind of nail everything and get everything done in a day, and we're you know, our willpower is superhuman, and it's not. So yeah, routines are key, disciplines are key, and then having the humility to aim low, like really low, like even if it's just getting out of bed on time. Like, you've just got to make sure you comply with your own rules. These aren't my rules, these are your rules. That's really important. You've got to make your own rules. If I'm telling you what to do, then you know, you're compliant to me, and you know, I'm your master, and you don't want that. You want to be
Yeah.
setting rules for the life that you want, not for the life that I'm telling you to live. So this is something else we work on. You know, you create your own, you know what you want your day to look like. You might want to get out of bed at 8:30 and start on a real slow note with a cup of tea and a book. Amazing. Or you might want to be the guy that gets up at 5 and hits the gym. But once you know that about yourself, you can start enforcing your own routines and your own disciplines into your life. So what we would do from that angle is help you find out what they are, and then keep you accountable to those kind of disciplines that you've made. Yeah, I think that's important.
Fantastic. So you said about working on people's characters.
Yeah.
How do you start to do that? You know, if you've got somebody who I don't like the term, but feels lost,
Yeah.
knows they want to be better, but not quite sure how or what it is they want.
Yeah.
How do you start to kind of unpick that to work out what they actually want to do and want to be?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. So a lot of this is contextual. We have, you know, a really good conversation at the start. I think every guy he might not know what he wants to do, but he'll know what kind of life he doesn't want to lead. It's really common that. So, you know, if I say to you, what is success? You might go, well, I'm not really sure, to be honest. But if I say what isn't successful, you might say, well, do you know what? It wouldn't be successful if I was 5 stone overweight and I was exhausted all day. And I don't really feel like success is, you know, not being able to control my emotions. I'm really out of order to my kids, and I bite their head. Do you know what I mean? You can work out what you want from your life often by looking at what you don't want. You take that and you inverse it, and you know, you do the reverse of the things that you don't want. And I think every guy really deep down kind of knows what kind of man he wants to be. He might not know what he wants in life, but he'll know whether he wants to live with integrity or not. He'll know whether he wants to have courage or not. And every man wants those things. There's no man I've ever spoke to who says, Alex, I want to have less courage. I want to have less respect for myself. I want to have less integrity. I want to be less loving. No man ever says that. So we know, as you know, character based, like every man wants to be on that journey. So that there's no debating there. What we look at was, how does that man show up? What does that specifically look like? And that's quite easy too. If you've got family, you know how you want to treat your family. You know how you want to speak to them. You know how you want to look after them. You know how you want to look when you take your shirt off in front of the mirror. You know, we know these things. So we can skip a lot of the BS and just kind of, but once a guy admits that and he says what he wants, he's then got to do the things to go and make that happen. That's where the courage comes in. Because, like I say, once you announce this, especially publicly or to me, and you say, Alex, I want to change my life, I want to get myself into good shape. My next question would be then, what the fuck are you going to do? Because that's what I'm interested in, because we all want these things. But my thing is, yeah, who's prepared to do the actions required to get them? And then I'll really learn about a man's character. I'll know what he's all about. So I'll learn a lot about a man when things don't go well. When things go well, it's all easy. Yeah. So we start with this and we get really underneath the skin and get right down to the bones of it. Like, you as a man, how do you want to show up? How do you want your wife to look at you? What kind of role model do you want to be for your kids? And every guy can come to the answer of that. And then the challenge is, like, how do we create that identity that you've just kind of, you know, told me that you want to live up to?
That's amazing. And you are finding that their relationships are improving with their family and partners and kids and things like that when they're up in their game and being how they want to feel.
Yeah, 100%. I think you might have even shared one of my posts from a girl called Jess. She did a testimony about her husband, Rob. And yeah, like, I want to be around my husband more now. He's a better person to be around. He's more generous. He's more kind. He's more loving. He's amazing with the kids. He's more fun. So this is what I mean about the argument from the female side. It's like, if we encourage men to be better, everybody wins from this. You get a better man in your life. Why would you? You know, your kids get a better dad, and the reason's always got to come from the individual. But one of the best effects to changing yourself as an individual is everybody who you come into contact with, everybody, people who live with you in the four walls of your home, to the average guy you meet or the random guy you meet on the street, is going to be positively impacted by the work that you've done. So that's, I mean, what better driver know that you're offering your family a better life. And most men who I speak to, that's all they want to do. It's the only reason they collect garbage from the streets. They just want to provide from their family. It's the only reason they do jobs. It's the only reason they do scaffolding. Most men just want to provide a decent kind of, you know, environment for their wife and for their kids. And sometimes we get it wrong and we don't show it in the right way. And but yeah, everybody is impacted. So everyone wins: kids, women, other men, everyone.
It's powerful. Actually, in a post, was it a few weeks ago, where they chaps had took their kids with them. Where did you go on a hike somewhere?
Yeah, it's Penny Fan. So the lads brought their kids with them. So it was just dads. Because again, mums are so loving and nurturing that they can often get a bit too overprotective, you know. And yeah, you know, and to watch your kids suffer and cry, a lot of mums would just be like, "This is too much. I just want to hug them and I just want to take them home." Mm-hmm. So with the dads, yeah, of course, there's a bit of that. It's never easy to watch your son cry, but the dad's language was more, "Look, son, I know this is tough, but you've got the strength to get to the top." And yeah, we you know, that's what we did. Penny Fan. It was snowing. It was hailstorms. Rain. We got to the top. We got down. There was some tears, but when we give the lads their medals at the end, their face just lights up. You know, it's a lesson in life. It's like, it's not always easy, but there are rewards for your hard work. And the dads were amazing. They were fantastic. And one of the lads says, "This has been the best day of my life, Daddy." You know, and from the car journey to the climb to the car journey home, it's just dad and son time. How precious. No phones, just talking, learning, being with your dad. I mean, what happened to that? Like, some kids don't even have the luxury of that. It's sad. It's really sad. And then we wonder why they're you know, at 18 they're completely lost and don't know much about the world. It's like, well, where was dad? So we try and encourage as much of that as possible. Yeah,
that's absolutely amazing. That's so incredible. I love that. I was like, oh, they're all trekking up there, and then look at the weather.
Yeah, and you know what? I was so thrilled that the weather was that bad, because on a sunny day, it's almost a bit too nice and too easy.
You're evil.
I know, but I just know, like, when I was little, I would have really benefited from that. I would have really benefited from some guys around me saying, "Come on, kid, you're stronger than you know." Because I didn't think I was strong. I thought I was weak, and I just needed some encouragement to get more out of myself. And nothing changes as you grow up as a man. You still need that. As a 40-year-old man, I still need elders to tell me, "Alex, you've got better than that. You can do better than this. You're stronger than you know. You've got more potential than you know." Because I don't believe in myself, but if someone else believes in me, they can get the best out of me. And that's so fucking important for a young kid now. They need that.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Right, I'm going to ask you a question that I ask everybody on the podcast, and it throws everybody off. So I don't know whether you saw my interview with Javino. This is actually his question that he fires at everybody. And when he came on the podcast, the first question I asked him was this, and it completely threw him off for the rest of the interview. But Alex, tell me 3 good things about yourself.
Okay, yeah. See, this is what us men are terrible at. I'd say the first thing is the courage that I've built up in my own character to, I guess, tackle some of the things that I found hardest. Mm-hmm. I've found life incredibly difficult, if I'm honest. So to face those things, the relationship issues that I've had, and to publicly, you know, put myself in a position to help other men whilst I'm still got a lot of work to do myself has taken a lot of, I like that about myself. The second thing is I like myself, or what's good about myself is the fact that, yeah, I can still have a good bit of banter and be that cheeky chap and get up to mischief. So I don't want to lose that part of me. Sometimes I get a little bit lost and forget to have fun. So I like that bit. And then the third, so what was the question? What's good about myself?
Yeah, yeah.
I got a decent physique on me. So I'm going to say my guns are probably one of the best parts about me. Yeah.
Oh, bless you. So I know that relationships have been tough for you in the past. Are you at a place in yourself where you're like, right, I'm ready to go and have a healthy relationship?
I don't know, because I'm not in one right now. I think, like anything, self-development is easy when you're on your own, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, it's easy. There's no woman pushing my buttons now, or there's no beautiful woman in my life making me feel jealous or insecure. And that wouldn't be through any fault of her own, by the way. That's just because I'm attracted to beautiful women with great energy. However, if I'm with a woman, so are other guys attracted to women with great energy and who are
Yeah.
beautiful. There's all that shit to deal with. So I don't know is the answer. It's been the most difficult challenge of my life, that forming relationships. And it's the biggest void in my life. It's no kids at 40, or I'll be 40 this year. No kids, no wife at the minute or girlfriend. And this is what I think it's terrible message to push to people, that career is more important than family. It's not. It's fucking not. And I know, because I haven't got a family, but I've got a career, and it's not. I would switch all of that for family, kids that I could teach, and so on. So yeah, I don't know. I'd like to think I would be better in relationships than I was 5 years ago, 10 years ago. I feel calmer within myself. But again, a lot of this has been doing from the work of accepting my own flaws. I think that's really important. Yeah. If I can be okay with them, then I might be able to show those flaws to a woman that comes into my life. But if I'm always trying to fight those flaws and pretend they don't exist and stuff like that, I'm never really going to show them to anybody. So I'm always going to be a bit of a fraudulent kind of partner to be with. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's important. I think, it's great to show the good side of us, but with everybody's got flaws, literally everybody, even if you've worked on personal development all your life, you still have flaws. But to be able to show yourself good and bad to somebody quite openly is quite a powerful thing to do, but it's not easy.
It's not easy, no. But I mean, I don't know what you would consider one of your flaws, but one of mine might be I can be a little bit controlling sometimes. But if you take that flaw, to every flaw there's positives to come from it, and vice versa. For every positive there's some negatives to come from it. Sometimes some women or my family love that I'm protective, like really protective. I'm a very protective man. If I love you, then I don't want anything bad to happen to you, and that can be sometimes a little bit suffocating from the behaviors that I show. But also it feels good when someone's looking out for you. It's
Yeah,
women
I was
often
about to say,
like
as
that.
soon as you said controlling, it was like, yeah, that's a fine line, isn't it? Because
Of course it is.
protective,
It's a
yeah.
very
So
fine line.
yeah,
Very.
so some women, I know some women that go absolutely like, I'd love to be protected and everything like this, but I also know some women that would see it as controlling. But for me, like, that's a good thing from a man, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Not where it's that obviously really controlling and suffocating and like abusive control, but men are protective. They are supposed to be protective, like an alpha male. So I wouldn't see that as a flaw, Alex.
No, but like we said, the fine line is a fine line. So what might be protective to me might be controlling to you.
Yeah.
What would be more concerning is if your partner had no sense of protection over you at all and didn't really give a shit what happened to you. So here's
Yeah.
a good example then. Okay, you can't walk home, you have to get a cab. Is that controlling or is that protective? No, I'm
That's
telling
I'd
you.
say, yeah, that's protective. I'd see
Right.
that.
Yeah, some women might go, no, you're not telling me what to do. And I'd be like, well, I feel a sense of responsibility to your safety. I'm sorry, I really want you to get a cab. I don't want you walking home. There's the fine line. Some people hear this and go, fuck it, Alex is a fucking control freak. He's not letting his missus walk home. Other people might think, Alex is he's just really wants his girlfriend to get home
To
safely.
be all right, yeah, yeah,
So
exactly.
it depends. So, but this is what I mean about being okay. I'm okay if you think that's controlling. I'm going to stick with my guns now and say, actually, I'm just protective. This is the thing that I was talking about, having the balls to go. Yeah, they might think I'm controlling. I don't give a shit anymore. I'm going to do that. That's me. That's who I am. I'm always going to be the guy that wants you to get a cab home and not walk through the dark night. Simple. And if you think that's controlling, fine. Me and you can go our separate ways, or you can have your own opinions. That's what you get better with, I think, as you develop courage, who you are. And that's how I think you attract the more suitable people into your life. You go, this is me. And they might not like it.
Exactly.
So brilliant. Yeah,
exactly. So that's definitely not a flaw you've got there. Right. So for many who've listened to this and gone, right, I need to go and work with Alex.
Yeah.
Where can they find you? Is it like a 12-week course? How is it pan out? Tell me
Yeah. So that is, we have a 90-day program, which is fairly popular. So this is, again, 90 days is a nice kind of time period because you're not signing away your whole life, but it's to enough time to make some change happen. So that's why we do that. And then often most of the guys hang around because they just get a taste for it and they're like, oh, this feels good, to be doing the work on myself and to see progress and to see, my missus is kind of like looking at me thinking, oh, you're actually doing the work this time. So yeah, 90 days is kind of like an intro way. The way you can hear about what I do and what we do, because I've got a business partner now, which is great. So it's Alex Myers _ the better man, I think, on Instagram. I need to remember my handle. I'm terrible on social media. Honestly, Amy, if I could delete social media from my life, I would do it.
It's that's the downside of working online, isn't it? It's one of those things where it's like you can't do without it, and you need it to be all right. Did you have the problem where Facebook and Instagram went down a couple of months ago?
No, it might have happened. I just wouldn't know about it.
Yes, you didn't notice. Yeah, everybody in my coaching group started to panic because we're all online.
I'd be chilling if my Facebook and Instagram went down. I'd be kicking my feet up and having a good time. So, but yeah, that's what. So we do a lot of coaching programs. We offer a lot of kind of education around, this, find out who you are, and then kind of like what action do I put to that. And then we also do a lot of events. So we'll go and take the young lads climbing. We'll go and do that with the adults. We're meeting next month in the TP, right, to sit around the fire and just talk about life. And I think, again, it's good to have those conversations with guys. It's not like hippie stuff. It's just like, dudes, what kind of life do you want to live? It's, what kind of man do you want to be? Just starting there is a great place. And then once you open that up in the discussion and one guy starts speaking and then the next, all of a sudden you've got all these great guys having really good conversations. It just needs sometimes the right setting and the right guys to do it. I'm a pretty relatable guy, I think. I've got tats all over me. I've got no hair. I'm not like some, guy in a suit with a psychology degree. It's none of that. It's just guys shooting the shit and bettering themselves. And to do that with other men is far easier than doing it on your own. And there's a paradox to that. It's not easier, it's harder because the other guys are going to make sure you do the work.
I love that.
Yeah, it's for more serious people, because when you're in a group, you're not going to be able to get away with your own bullshit that you get away on your own. We're humans, this, right? If we're left to our own devices, we do get complacent. No one pulls us up. So again, that's something else that we do. We show a little bit of tough love, and we want guys in our program to do well. And sometimes in order for that to happen, we just have to say things how they are, because we care about the men in our program. We want them to do well, so we're not going to lie to them, because that doesn't help them. So we'll be honest with each other. Men respect that. Men respect to the men who are honest with them, and can be honest back.
I love that. I think you create an amazing environment. It's always
thank you.
Good to see, like, you just stomping around everywhere and all your events with all the men there, and they're all like looking really happy. I think it's absolutely incredible. So yes, I did see that you took on a business partner. What's that all about?
Yeah, well, look, I want to grow this business. I want to help some more people, and Craig's an incredible guy who's been through his own epic transformation. He's a very overweight lad. I think he was into drugs, drink, gambling, smoking, everything. And he's managed to, he's one of those guys that you look at and you go, fucking hell, if he can turn his life around from where he was and the upbringing that he had, real terrible kind of situation for a young kid to be in. For me, he's just this kind of beacon of light. He's an inspiration. And again, he's a lad from Barnsley, working class lad. Like men
Mhm.
will be able to relate to him. And
Yeah.
again, his only desire is to create just the best life he can create for his kids and for his partner. He's brilliant. So, it's kind of two heads are better than one. He's driven, he's aggressive, he's a little bit more aggressive than I am. So I like
I
to
don't
keep.
believe that for a second.
No, it is like I could easily sit still and just be like, yeah, I'm cool where I am. He's like, let's go a bit harder. So we balance each other out quite well because he's quite chaotic and he's, I like that in him. He's a bit nuts, and I'm a little bit calmer than him. So between the two of us, bit of calm, bit of chaos. Yeah, let's see what happens. It may work, it may not, but let's give it a good go. We just want to help some guys out and make a little bit of a difference to what's going on in the world. Yeah.
I'm looking forward to seeing what's panning out for you for the rest of the year.
Me too. Me
Well,
too. I ain't
thank
got a
you.
clue either.
Thank you, my lovely. I'm going to let you go to the gym now.
I'll say that word, Don't want to erode my confidence.
Yeah, I'm going to check in with you later just to make sure you've been.
Oh, mate, I
Thank
love the
you.
gym. I'm going. No, thanks so much for inviting me. I'm always flattered and a little bit bemused when people say, "Do you want to come and speak to me on the podcast?" So
Really?
yeah,
Oh,
why
you
not?
need to think more of yourself, Alex. I'm picking you up here.
Well, yeah. Well, that view we have on ourselves can often be a bit distorted, can't it? That's another subject, but yeah, something else for me to get better at.
Yeah, I'll come and kick your ass for you, mate. You're only down the road.
Thank you, and keep up the great work you're doing. I
Yes,
love the
thank
effort and
you.
the enthusiasm you put into what you do. That's why I said yes instantly. Kind of checked out what you were doing. You're so enthusiastic about it, and you're very open as well. You let guys speak, which is great for you to do. So yeah, keep up your great work too.
Thank you, my lovely. Much appreciated.
Welcome.
Right, I will see you soon and have a fab time at the gym.
I will. Thank you.
Take care. Bye bye.